Welcome to the Jaguar Podcast, a show where we discuss all things related to Duval County's finest NFL football team, the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Move 42, set, fight!
Duval, baby! Hey everybody, this is Andrew and welcome to episode 70 of the Jaguar Podcast. In this episode, we're going to be talking about some of the trade possibilities for Nick Foles. So let's jump into it. There's been a lot of activity this week about potential trades for the Jacksonville Jaguars. There have been several posts on Twitter and on sports news channels about potential trade situations for Nick Foles. The Jags are interested in trading him. And honestly, I feel a little bit torn in this decision to trade him. I feel like Nick really hasn't been given an opportunity to show his stuff. Only played 4 games, benched after that for Gardner Minshew. And
heart and balls, man, heart and balls.
So I don't know. I just think it's kind of unfortunate. Nick wasn't really able to show his value to the team, his worth, and, another part of me feels like Nick Foles kind of has some, durability issues. He's constantly hurt, and I feel like he's kind of injury prone, broke his clavicle in the first game of the season, and, it's just unfortunate. But, Gardner Minshew stepped in and played really well.
Just heart and balls, man.
And
heart and balls.
I think, he's going to be the guy at the end of the day, at least for next season. I think the jury's still out on whether, he's going to be a consistent high performer and, going to be the starting guy or the franchise guy. So, I think we still have to wait till next season. But, the Jaguars are kind of in a predicament right now because they paid Nick Foles, $88 million over 4 years, and $50 million or so is guaranteed. So it's a huge cap hit. And, we're going to have to do something about that if we want to, free up some cap space and make some moves in the free agency market. So, a couple of different places I think that he could land is, one, the Chargers. I think, they have a quarterback situation right now. Phillip Rivers, he has announced that he's going to leave the team. He's not coming back in free agency. So they're going to be looking for a quarterback. I think that could be one landing spot for Nick Foles because I think they're really between a rock and a hard place, and they need a quarterback now. So Nick Foles could be a guy that steps in there and kind of fills that void. Miami could be another place as well. They have Ryan Fitzpatrick, but I just don't think Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to be the long-term guy. They're going to have to draft somebody, but I think Nick Foles knows how to win, and that could be, a good spot for him, good landing spot. They're also going to have a lot of cap space when they cut some of those veterans. So I think it'll be about 80 to 90 million in predicted cap space that'll open up. Another kind of stretch, where I feel like, Nick Foles could potentially land is the Washington Redskins, because I feel like Daniel Snyder, the owner of the Skins, I feel like he loves veteran quarterbacks. He went after a lot of veteran quarterbacks, like, Jeff George being one of them. He just likes veterans. He went after Dan Wilkinson, Bruce Smith. He likes to go after those, like, pedigree veteran players, like, Deion Sanders being an example. Even coaches like Steve Spurrier, Joe Gibbs. So I feel like Nick Foles could be a really attractive, trade situation for Dan Snyder and the Washington Redskins. So, that could be another option as well. And they may have the cap space to do it. So, maybe the Jaguars trade Nick Foles and, like a 5th round pick for, Quentin Dunbar, and that could be a potential situation as well. But the issue really is that the enormous contract that the Jaguars paid Nick Foles. So they got to get that money off their books and, open up some cap space. So we'll see what happens. It's really, again, a predicament. This Jaguars organization has just been a total show in the offseason. And, we'll see what happens. I feel like split on this decision because I feel like Nick really wasn't given an opportunity to show his stuff for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think Nick is a good guy, at heart. I think, he helped Gardner kind of develop while he was on the sidelines, kind of recovering from his injury. So I think he's a good guy. I think he gets a lot of flack. People on Twitter are calling him like a substitute teacher. We paid this substitute teacher all this money, and he's getting a lot of hate right now. And I feel bad for him in a lot of ways, just because I feel like he's just not been given, the opportunity to show his abilities. And I think he's a really good quarterback. So I think wherever he'll land, he'll do okay. And, even if he is our backup, I think that's a good situation as well, because I think, Nick is a clutch player and can come in and win some games. So I don't think it's the end of the world, but I think the Jaguars are going to have to find a way to get some of this money off their books with this just ridiculous contract. So, let me know how you feel about this situation. Let me know how where you think Nick Foles is going to land. Leave me a comment on the YouTube video or podcast episode. Give me a like if you enjoyed this episode as well. Subscribe to the channel. Go Jags, and I'll see you next time.
Let me get that. JYD coming up with the big sack. Quarterbacks beware, we on the prowl. Game day night, you could hear it in our growl. Intimidation on to keep their hearts racing. Eating other teams live on TV front of the nation. Spectacular defensive scheme.
This episode is available on the Jaguar Podcast YouTube channel. So if you stop by, make sure to subscribe and give this video a like. Also, these episodes are available on iTunes, Podbean, Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and other major podcast distributors as well. So if you don't mind, please leave me a review and some feedback. I'd really appreciate that. If you'd like to connect with me on social media, my Twitter handle is @JagwarPodcast. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram. This is Andrew signing off. Cheers.